Hello everyone, welcome to the Sci-Fi Christians exclusive coverage of Bendy Bono's trip to C2E2 2014. Here I am in the car in the not so great state of Wisconsin. I really don't like Wisconsin. Sorry to any Wisconsin viewers out there, but I mean, if you guys are honest with yourselves, you know it's true. It's just a terrible state. But anyway, so I've left the wonderful state of Minnesota in Wisconsin on my way to Illinois. Almost there. I mean, like 3 hours, but okay, it's all relative when you're driving, you know. But anyway, so I just thought I'd check in with a little on-the-road update. Despite, you know, complaining about the state that I'm driving through, it's actually been a pretty swell trip so far. It's been raining the whole time. It's still raining now, though it's a little bit lighter. But yeah, make a good time. I love driving, you know. I guess this doesn't really have anything to do with C2E2, but I gotta pass the time somehow, so do a little video recording here on the way. Seems like the way to do it. Yeah, so I love driving. Actually, it's kind of nice to get a little time alone. I mean, flying really wouldn't have saved even that much time for me, because it's like an hour, 45-minute flight to Chicago from Minnesota. But I live an hour from the airport, okay, and then, you know, you've got to get there like 2 hours early, right, for your stupid security and everything. So right there, we're up to 4 hours compared to a 6-hour drive, and that's not even counting on the back end that you've got to rent a car because Rick's flying in. I'm meeting up with Rick Lee James from Voices in My Head podcast. You'll see him later on in this video, I'm sure. And, you know, so we'd have to go rent a car, and that's just obnoxious. Or take a cab or something, none of which I want to do. So, and then the whole experience of flying just sucks, because you're in this plane with other people you don't know, don't particularly want to be around. You've got no personal space whatsoever, but here it's like I got my whole car, and it's fantastic. Stopped once so far, right at the beginning of my trip. Got a donut that tasted like crap, that's hard to do. You make a donut that just isn't any good, but somehow Super America managed it. So, good job, guys. And then I enjoyed my pipe on the way down. Just smoked this guy, finished this guy just a little bit ago. Yeah, that's just great. You know, you're cruising down the road, you light your pipe. Only bad part is I usually like to use matches on the pipe, but just because there are limits to what you're able to do on the road while still being a safe driver, safe individual. Pulled out the Zippo lighter, does it in a pinch. I don't know if you hear that obnoxious scraping sound. That's my windshield wipers, because it's like it starts to rain, stops raining, all that. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to the trip. I think it's going to be a good trip. We're going to have a good time. Going to have to talk with Rick and find out what panels he wants to do and everything. I was looking over the C2E2 stuff last night on my computer, and you know, there's some cool people there. Like Stan Lee's going to be there, some Game of Thrones people. Walt Jr. is going to be there from Breaking Bad. R.J. Middy's actual actor's name. But I'm not going to get any autographs, because you want to know how much they're charging for autographs at this thing? $40 an autograph. $40, except for Stan Lee, who's $80. No thank you. So, autographs, not going to happen. But I'm still expecting we're going to have a good time. We're going to see a lot of panels and everything. So, gosh, I don't know what else to talk about as far as C2E2 goes. I could just kind of ramble for a little bit, amuse myself. You guys are probably like, how long is this part going to go on for? It's going to go on for as long as I want it to go on for, as I pass the time here on the road. Okay? I think I'm right outside Wisconsin Dells now, actually. And I saw a sign for, if you're not familiar with Wisconsin Dells, it's like the tourist attraction in Wisconsin for some unknown reason. They've got a bunch of water parks and stuff, which is just weird. I mean, water parks are disgusting, and I already made my thoughts about Wisconsin though. So why you would want to go to Wisconsin to go to water parks is beyond me. But apparently they have this water park here called Noah's Ark. And I was just thinking, you know, in light of recent Noah movie and all that and all the protests, I wonder if Ken Ham and all the angry Christians should come here and check out the Noah's Ark water park for biblical accuracy and find out if we should all boycott that as well. Yeah, it's probably even less accurate than they claim Darren Aronofsky's movie was. Though, if you watch the sci-fi Christian stuff, you know, I actually thought it was quite accurate. Really got kind of jobbed by Christians who were just determined to hate it. But, you know, hey, we're not here to talk about Noah. We're not here to be divisive. We're going to C2E2. And more to the point, well, maybe not more to the point, but something else I'm excited for. Gonna check out the craft beer scene in Chicago. I'm looking forward to that, right? Lots of good craft beers that I'm sure don't have distribution up in good old Minnesota, so I'm gonna have to see those. Do a review of some of the best of Chicago's craft beer for the Bendy Bono Beer Show, which is my side YouTube project. And if you haven't checked that out yet, you haven't liked me on Facebook, you should definitely do that. Bendy Bono Beer Show. I was going to say .com, but I don't have a website. Just search YouTube or Facebook for the Bendy Bono Beer Show. And yeah, you like that, check out the videos. Even if you don't like beer, I'm sure you like listening to me talk. If you didn't, you would have turned this video off by now. But here you are. Alright, so that's probably all I've got to say for right now. Actually, I probably exhausted what I had to say about 5 minutes ago. But, oh well, you gotta pass the time in Wisconsin somehow. You gotta get yourself through this miserable state such as it is. Anyway, maybe I'll check in a little bit later if anything else interesting happens on the road. Or just if I get bored and feel like I need to talk to you guys for a little bit. Anyway, I will get back to you later with the next installment of Bendy Bono's trip to C2E2, brought to you by the Sci-Fi Christian. Alright, goodbye everyone. Alright everyone, here I am again, 4 days later, back in the wretched state of Wisconsin, driving home. And you might be thinking, wait, what about the con? You're just going to film your trip there, your trip back? Well, that would kind of be funny to me if I did that. But no, I've got a little montage for you. Who doesn't love montages? So let's cut to that. We'll come back. I'll tell you about the con. Here you go. We need a montage. Alright, we are entering C2E2 day 1. It's the world famous Rickley James. I had no idea you were going to be here.
What are you doing here? I don't understand. Who are you?
I'm staying at the Red Roof Inn, floor 14.
That's where I am.
Yeah. With the elevator,
You're that
right?
guy that was in my room.
Yes, I think that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. All right, Rick, you're the veteran here. Where do we go first?
I would just say start someplace.
Okay, I think I can get on board with that plan.
Let's do that.
Okay. All right, we're gonna start someplace, and we'll be back. Only at C2E2 is the 5XL size required. So you can see, it was quite a con. No, I can do a little bit better wrap up than that. It was kind of fun. You know, I had a good time. And when I was going down, I was expecting to I wasn't sure what I was going to expect out of the con. I knew I was going to have a fun time with hanging out with Rick. Certainly did, and hanging out in Chicago. And yeah, all that was a blast. But the con was a lot of fun too, actually. I kind of surprised myself. Not that I was expecting it to be terrible, you know. I wasn't sure that I was going to have quite as much fun as I did, but yeah, I had a good time. I got to go to a couple panels, walk around the floor, see plenty of weird people who really needed to wear more clothes given how much they weighed. Just a little public service announcement there. Self-awareness, it's a good thing, especially when doing cosplay. I got to hang out with not only Rick, but Daniel Ford, who's a fan of Sci-Fi Christian. He lives down in, I suppose I shouldn't use his last name, sorry Dan. Hung out with him and his wife and a couple of their friends last night, and so yeah, it was fun. But yeah, so we kind of, I mean, it's Sunday today. We had 3-day passes, but we didn't bother to go back today. Rick and I kind of felt like we'd seen everything we had needed to and wanted to see after a couple days. We went on Friday, and mostly on Friday, just walked around the floor. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a huge, huge showroom. And to me, I didn't buy anything on Friday in terms of merchandise from the con. You know, to me, it was so much of it was just the sociological phenomenon there, and one that I both fit into well and not at all. You know, because I am a science fiction guy, and so there's a lot of overlapping interests, obviously, you know, and do the podcast and all that. But then on the other hand, it's just there's something there. The people who are there are approaching this stuff in a way that's so fundamentally foreign to me and to the way I think about science fiction and stories and all of that there's a part of me that just frankly doesn't get it. And that's not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that it's fascinating to me, you know, that spend all this money trying to collect every issue of Batman or whatever you're doing, and so much of these stories just aren't that good, you know. But it's that collector's mentality that throws yourself into something, and it's almost the quality of these stories becomes irrelevant, and it's fascinating to me. You know, and I've been there to some degree in the past with doing collecting of comic books and all that. I don't do it anymore, partly because I realized I just didn't get it. You know, I was having fun, but it just felt very vapid to me at the end of the day. But you know, these people, they find a great deal of meaning in it. I'm not sure I quite understand what that meaning is, and I'd love to sit down and have intellectually honest conversations with some of them, and you know, just really push them on, well, why is this worth so much time and effort? And you know, I can totally understand going to something like this as kind of the casual fans Rick and I are, but the hardcore fans, it completely eludes me. But still, it's fun to kind of immerse yourself in that world for a weekend, if only to be exposed to the fact that people do approach this stuff, again, much of it that I do enjoy and love, in a way, such a different way than I do. So fascinating. I was absolutely fascinated by the sociology of what's going on at a con like this. My favorite part of the floor, I actually surprised myself a little bit, was Artist Alley. You know, and if you've never been to a con, basically these are people who are comic artists or just artists with a sci-fi, fantasy, comic-ish tilt to them, and I was kind of expecting to be bored with Artist Alley. Rick and I went there on day 2, and I really didn't think I was going to enjoy that part. I was certainly happy to walk through it with him, but I wasn't really looking forward to that. And it wound up being my favorite part of the floor. You know, I actually went back later and kind of walked through some more and bought a few prints of artwork that they've done that's just extraordinary. And as I was thinking about it more, I think kind of to piggyback on what I was just saying about stories, you know, a lot of why I don't like comics is because I think so often the stories are, I don't know how much I want to get into this. I mean, you're looking for a con wrap up, not like a philosophical discussion of storytelling in comic form. But so often the stories are just bad, but people buy them because of the mythological or psychological level they connect with these characters at. And to me, the art in many ways accomplishes that same phenomenon without having to sit through bad stories. And that's, just to be clear, I'm not saying all comic stories are bad or anything close to it. Some of them are quite remarkable in their own right. You know, but to see just a magnificent piece of art where there's Batman fighting the Joker and all that, it's like, I've kind of reached the point where if it's not going to be a great story, just skip the story and let me enjoy the mythological moment of, you know, or the archetypal or psychological moment, or however we want to look at it, that's being represented there in the art. I mean, that can capture to me so much more than a half-baked story can do. So I really enjoyed Artist Alley. Got some really solid prints. Obviously I'm driving, so I'm not going to preview those for you now. But did almost everything I bought, with the exception of I got a knife and a dagger at one of the tables. Everything else was from Artist Alley, so that was my favorite part of the con. You know, and then I went to a few panels. Okay, so I went to 3 different panels. And the first one was a beer and comics panel, which, you talk about forcing a connection, man. I mean, it was an interesting panel because they had a few brewers from around the area there, and, you know, I'm a beer guy, of course, so I really enjoyed kind of sitting there and hearing some of what they had to say about the industry. But the premise of the panel was, well, beer and comics are similar because they're both collaborative arts and all of that. And it's like, well, you know what, guys, okay, they are, but that's about where the similarities end. And I guess I just kind of felt like, you know, if we want to have a beer panel, let's just have a beer panel. You know, let's not force a connection or anything. You know, let's just enjoy the fact that a lot of people who are at this con are also going to fall into the beer crowd. And let's just have fun with that. Let's not worry about trying to make a connection that's not there. But that was kind of an interesting panel. And then the next day, I made it to... I'd missed the Game of Thrones panel on Friday, but I went to a panel with Dan and his wife and their friends on Saturday, where Alfie Allen, who plays Theon, and Kristen Narn, who plays Hodor, and the person whose name I don't know, who plays Osha, were there. And then they had a couple of Game of Thrones bloggers, including, I think, the one guy they had there, who they had him up there by their screen name, so his name was Wordhead, and he runs the Game of Thrones Wikia. But I think he's also the blogger at the Word Zone, which is a sci-fi fantasy blog I've been reading for years. So that was kind of fun, assuming it was actually him, to see this person who I've just been reading his blog. I just randomly found his blog probably 7-8 years ago, and I've been reading it ever since. So that was kind of cool. And that was a fun panel. You know, I don't know how much in depth they went to it. It's just kind of fun to see those guys and hear a little bit about the show and, you know, all of that. And nothing really groundbreaking in terms of the information from there. It was kind of funny to hear Kristen Narn, who, by the way, is huge. I mean, that is a big human being. So if he looks big on camera, well, he's big in real life too. He's just dwarfed everyone else who was at the table. But hear him talk about, you know, that the kind of direction he gets, because he only has one word on the show. For those of you who don't watch this character named Hodor is kind of not the brightest bulb on the tree. He's kind of simple-minded, but very loyal, interesting character. But the only word he ever says is Hodor, so he says his name. And Kristen Arm was talking about how the director will, well, you know, make your Hodor a little less anxious and a little more excited, you know, and just kind of giving him this direction for how to add inflection to this one word. And so that was both amusing and interesting to hear that the level of detail in Game of Thrones is taken to that extreme. Okay, and then the last panel, this is the one I really want to talk about. And I wasn't going to go to this, but I was hanging out with Dan and his, and his party, like I said, and they wanted to go to it, and then we were going to go have drinks afterwards. So it's like, yeah, what the heck, I'll take along, we'll go to this. So it was a panel put on by the OneRing.net, which again is a site I've been following for 15 years, really since 1999, 2000, right after it came online. If you're not familiar with it, it's essentially, they've been sort of the premier internet site for tracking the development of the Lord of the Rings movies and then now the Hobbit movies. So I knew, the part of why I didn't want to go to the panel, even though I am a huge Tolkien fan, is, well, number one, I hated Desolation of Smaug. So if you watched our review of that, you know I was not a fan, to put it mildly. But then the other thing is that the panel was called The Hobbit There and Back Again, titled, of course, before the recent name change to The Battle of the Five Armies. But The Hobbit There and Back Again, spoilers and speculation. And right there, it's like, okay, I shouldn't swear here. I'll swear and then beat myself on the video. That is it's a 70-year-old book. What? Spoilers and then speculation. It's like, to me, it has just, it's accepted the premise that Peter Jackson has just gone off on his own little world, and we're all okay with it. And it was kind of funny, because it's like, this is the crowd that is going to be, to go back to what I was saying earlier, that we just are very little discernment in terms of the story. It's like, well, we love Tolkien, we love Peter Jackson, so we gotta love these movies. So no objectivity whatsoever in this panel. It's just, oh, everything's just so great. And, so I knew that I was going to be the vast, vast minority in the room. And it was a smallish panel. And so the people up there were like, so we all loved Evangeline Lilly's character, Toriel. And everybody's, yeah, she's great. And then there's me, no. So I'm kind of the dissenting voice. And it's like, gosh, to me, it just blew my mind, because these are people who are self-professed Tolkien fans. And it's like, if Tolkien has just become another fandom, not to say that there can't be a legitimate fandom of it, so just hear me out here. Listen to the whole thought. If Tolkien just becomes another fandom, in the way that, we went over a little bump, messed up the camera, we're back. But in the way that, say, Batman or Doctor Who does, where the existence of the fandom and our investment in the fandom is such where the quality of the story ceases to matter. Or, if not ceases, is at least diminished. Then we have failed to understand Tolkien, because that's just, and it's what you saw when the movie came out. It's like, well, Peter Jackson, whether you think this movie is, from an artistic standpoint, is good, bad, and different, he has fundamentally misunderstood Tolkien. And here we have a room full of people who would be self-professed major Tolkien fans. A lot of them read the books, I'm sure. Certainly everybody who was running the panels read the books. And again, they're just misunderstanding Tolkien. And I just have to wonder, it's like, does our investment get us to this point where we are so big of fans, or we get so invested in the fandom, maybe that's the better way to put it, that we miss why. We miss the why of something like Tolkien. We miss, why is Tolkien so powerful? Why are we still talking about this book 70, 80 years later? Why will we be talking about it for centuries to come? Well, it's not because it makes this fun little fantasy with great action scenes and cool CGI and It's because Tolkien told us a meaningful story with power and with grace, and he did something, especially in the case of Lord of the Rings. It's just so incredibly difficult to do, and that so dwarfs the crap that is just spewed out today in the name of all these different fandoms. And if we're just going to reduce someone like Tolkien to just another thing we churn out because we gotta have more of it, we have missed the point very drastically. And to me, that to tie everything back to what I started with, that is my fundamental difference between myself and what's going on at this con, is that I look at that and I say, I love Tolkien. I'm glad that Tolkien is mainstream. I'm glad that there are so many fans out there. But it's not enough. It's not enough to just be a fan. There's something deeper going on in those stories. And there's so many other, and in the case of something like Batman and superheroes, there's that potential for something deeper that comes out in the best of their stories. And when we're just satisfied with crap because we like the fandom, we've missed the point very, very drastically. And so that to me is what's fascinating about these cons, is that I'm surrounded by people at them whose view of things is 100%, 180 degrees different than mine. And yeah, it's fascinating to me. It's also depressing in some ways, and also just kind of just interesting to be around, interesting to think about. So anyway, that's C2E2. I got another 6 hours in the car, 5 hours in the car. I don't think you want to be with me for the whole time. I probably don't want you with me for the whole time. I got my pipe to smoke, listen to some books on tape. That'll be fun. But yeah, so C2E2. Good times. You should go if you haven't gone before. It's a blast. We'll see you next year, everyone. Hopefully more of the sci-fi Christian contingent will get there, and we can all hang out. It's a good time. Alright, this is Bendy Bono. This is Sci-Fi Christian C2E2 wrap-up. Goodbye.